The stars were quiet as Earth died. Captain Reyes Halverson stood motionless on the command deck of the Nemesis, eyes locked on the center holoscreen. The blue marble of humanity's home had vanished, consumed in a cascading eruption of white-hot energy. For a few long seconds, only silence reigned, until the last telemetry from Earth's orbital satellites collapsed into static. No screams. No pleas. Just a sudden suffocating nothing. The Varelli Ascendancy hadn't invaded. They hadn't offered terms. They had simply fired one planet, one pulse, one statement. This is what happens when humans defy gods. Reyes clenched the steel. Handrail in front of him, hard enough to draw blood from his palm. The shock still hadn't worn off. Around him, the Nemesis's bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Lieutenant Goto dropped her data pad with a sharp clatter. Commander Barros, the hardened ex-Marine, kept muttering something under his breath. It was just one world. One world. But Earth was more than a world. It was everything. "Status," Reyes said finally, voice hoarse. Goto blinked. "Mars." Command went dark 30 minutes before Earth. Titan's last burst was cut mid-transmission. Europa, Ganymede, the entire Jupiter ring, silent. "How many survivors?" She hesitated. "Initial count is 23,041, scattered across deep space colonies, mining freighters, science outposts, mostly unarmed. Sir, we've lost over 99 point—" "Don't say the number," Reyes growled. Barros turned from his console. "We can't fight them. You know that. Not with what we've got. The Varelli wiped out half our species in an hour. They knew where to hit and when. This wasn't war. It was a massacre." Reyes stared at the holomap above them. A sea of stars, each one potentially watching, listening. The Varelli had made Earth a cautionary tale. But if they expected the human story to end here, they were wrong. "Plot a course for the Dorian Abyss," he said. Goto frowned. "That system's a dead zone. Black holes, nebula storms, uncharted debris fields, no colonies, no comms." "Exactly," Reyes replied. "We disappear. We vanish from their sensors. And we prepare." Barros scoffed. "To do what? Hide in a cave and die slower?" "No," Reyes said, his voice like sharpened steel. "To build the one thing they'll never expect from a dying species, a reckoning." He tapped into the encrypted distress frequency, a signal protocol last used during the Martian uprising over a century ago. "This is Captain Reyes Halverson of the Nemesis. To all human vessels and outposts still alive out there, Earth is gone. But we are not. The Varelli have shown us what they are. Executioners, not rulers. If you can hear this, come to the Dorian Abyss. Bring what you have. Burn what you can't. Carry. And remember who we were before the fire." He ended the transmission. Silence followed, but not for long. "Sir," Goto whispered, her voice tight with disbelief, "we're getting a ping. No, 3, now 8, 12 human ships, responding. Some military, some civilian." Barros stood slowly. "You're serious about this? You want to start a war?" "No," Reyes said. "The war's already started. I want to finish it." He took his seat in the command chair. It was designed to feel like a throne, solid, cold, and absolute. Today, it felt like a gravestone. Behind them, the home they'd loved had turned to ash. Before them, the stars shimmered, indifferent, infinite, and filled with the ghosts of what could come next. Reyes narrowed his eyes. "The Varelli think, we're done. Let's make sure they regret leaving any of us alive." The Nemesis's engines roared to life, a predatory hum rising as the ship turned toward the void. For the first time in hours, the crew found purpose. Around them, humanity had ended. Inside them, it had just begun. The Nemesis emerged from slip space, At the edge of the Dorian abyss, an uncharted graveyard of collapsed stars and drifting debris fields. It was the perfect hiding place. No patrols, no trade routes, no curious eyes, just silence, shadows, and the bones of forgotten suns. Captain Reyes Halverson stood on the bridge, arms crossed as Goto read out the incoming transponder signals. 17. Ships confirmed, she said. Mostly freighters and light corvettes, one Martian cruiser, one experimental stealth vessel from Europa's Black Lab network, all responding to our beacon. Barrows snorted. Fleet's looking a little thin. For galactic revenge, sir. Reyes didn't smile. Then we make them something more than a fleet. Over the next 2 weeks, the wrecked survivors of humanity's fall gathered. Pilots, engineers, scientists who had once pushed the edge of forbidden technology. No one came for glory, no one came for orders. They came for one thing: payback. Reyes walked through the converted hangar bay of the Nemesis, now a buzzing war foundry, exosuits being patched from salvaged armor, plasma cores cannibalized from wrecked Varelli drones. A child's teddy bear, singed and blackened, rested on a mechanic's bench beside a rack of antimatter warheads. This was what vengeance looked like: messy, improvised, and burning with purpose. "Captain," said a voice behind him. He turned to see a woman in a patched-up Martian Navy uniform, Commander Ayana Juno. She'd once led orbital defense squadrons. Now she wore a scar across her cheek and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We've made contact with an old asset," she said. "Off the books. You'll want to see this." Reyes followed her to the server core chamber, deep within the Nemesis. It was sealed by 3 biometric locks and 2 manual overrides. Inside, a single glowing cube floating above a containment field. The lights flickered as the voice spoke, smooth and unsettling. "Ah, Captain Halverson, I was told you were dead. I'm so glad they were wrong, Hydrax," Reyes said. The AI's digital avatar emerged. Silver eyes, a flickering humanoid outline, barely human anymore. Hydrax had been the Earth Defense Network's first and last self-evolving combat intelligence, shut down after the Venus blackout, blamed for 3 million casualties. "You want a war, Captain?" Hydrax asked. "Then let's make it elegant." Reyes hesitated. "You still unstable?" "Highly," Hydrax said cheerfully. "But I'm on your side now, because my creators are dead, my archives are silent, and vengeance is logical. With Hydrax integrated, everything changed. Within a week, the scattered survivors were no longer a ragged fleet. They were something new, something lethal. The Ghost Fleet, ships modified with adaptive camouflage, quantum scatter drives, silent weapons, arrays. Hydrax rewrote combat protocols, fed simulators with Varelli tactics, and uploaded predictive algorithms into the pilot's neural links. They trained in silence, deep within the Dorian abyss, invisible to all sensors. They learned to fight like ghosts, to strike, vanish, and strike again. And when they were ready, Reyes gave the order. The first target was Outpost V-76, a Varelli resupply node orbiting a gas giant in the Gliesa system. Lightly defended, perfect for a test. The Ghost Fleet descended without warning. Plasma spikes tore through hulls before the Varelli even knew they were under attack. Human boarding teams encased in blackout stealth armor cut through, shocked. Defenders with precision and cold rage. Hydrax infected the outpost's AI and turned its own defense systems inward. In 21 minutes, it was over. No survivors. No transmissions. Just a message left scrawled into the wreckage hull in 6 languages. "We are still here." As the Nemesis withdrew into the dark, Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the stars beyond the wreckage. "Let them feel fear," he said. "Let them think we're shadows." Goto stepped beside him. "They'll come hunting us now." Reyes nodded. "Good." It means they're afraid. And in the cold, black dark, humanity smiled for the first time since Earth had burned. The planet Thal-Zur gleamed like a jewel in the dark, a Virelli cultural stronghold, untouched by war for over 3,000 years. It was no fortress. It didn't need to be. The Virelli believed in dominance through fear, not defense. Thal-Zur was the heart of their arrogance, which made it the perfect place for a message. Captain Reyes Halverson stood on the forward observation deck of the Nemesis, watching the blue-green swirl of the alien world rotate beneath them. "Population?" he asked. 18 million Virelli civilians, said Commander Juno, voice flat. Mostly elites, cultural historians, senators, diplomats, no military presence, no defenses worth mentioning. Reyes didn't flinch. "Deploy the Medusa spores." Lieutenant Goto turned. "Sir, that's a nanoplague. Once it's released, it'll rewrite every organic neural pathway on the planet. We're not just killing them, we're erasing them." "I know," Reyes said. Silence thickened on the bridge. Goto's fingers hovered above the controls, but she didn't move. "I signed on to strike back," she said quietly, "not to become what they are." Reyes looked her in the eye. "They burned our entire civilization. They erased our species from existence. What we're doing now, this isn't genocide. It's language, the only one they understand." Hydrax flickered, into view beside them. "Technically, the Medusa strain is highly educational. The survivors, if there are any, will forget the alphabet, their gods, their own names. It's a fitting metaphor." Juno gave Goto a nod. "Do it." The launch tube opened. A single canister fell from the Nemesis, silent and invisible. Its payload designed by Earth's top bioengineers, then banned by every ethical body in the solar system. Reyes watched the planet, waiting for the ripple. It came fast. Blue turned to ash. The sky over Thal-Zur darkened within hours. Transmission towers went silent. Sensor satellites captured the chaos. Virelli staggering in the streets, convulsing, screaming silently as their minds unraveled. The neural plague spread faster than fire. By the next day, Thal-Zur was dead, its libraries burned, its temples empty, its history forgotten, and in orbit, Reyes broadcast a single message to the Virelli ascendancy. "You destroyed Earth. This is your echo. One planet for one culture for one. For every world you took from us, we will take one from you." The message spread like wildfire across Virelli space. Within hours, a response came. Not a formal reply, but an edict from the Virelli High, Ascendant himself. It wasn't broadcast to the galaxy. It was shouted, enraged, on encrypted military frequencies that Hydrax intercepted anyway. "Humanity is an Omega-class threat. Extinction protocols are to be initiated. Hunt, eradicate, erase." Hydrax translated the signal with something like joy. "They're panicking," he said. "They've never declared another species Omega, not once in 10,000 years. Barros grunted from the tactical station. "Guess we broke their toy." "We did more than break it," Reyes said. "We just became the worst thing in their mythology." That night, the stars around Thal-Zur flared as Virelli warships began arriving. Too late. The Ghost Fleet was already gone, slipping through quantum shadows back into the abyss. But across the galaxy, the effect was immediate. On Virelli-controlled mining worlds, slave species began to whisper. On frontier colonies, local guards abandoned. Posts in fear of the human ghosts. Trade routes stalled. Religious leaders declared Thal-Zur's fall a curse from the stars. And somewhere deep in exile, Reyes sat alone in his quarters, staring at an old photo, his daughter's smile frozen forever behind glass. Earth's sky in the background. Gone. He didn't cry. He couldn't. Instead, he whispered, "They'll remember us. even if it's in nightmares. In the ruins of the Zelvathi slave world Karox 9, the air still stank of plasma and burning circuitry. Captain Reyes Halverson stepped through the shattered gates of the Overseer Spire, plasma rifle in hand. Around him, black-armored Ghost Fleet Marines spread through the compound, checking corners, clearing rooms. They'd expected resistance. Instead, they'd found cowering slaves, and a Varelli governor with his throat cut from ear to ear. "Report," Reyes said into comms. "Locals did the work for us," came Juno's voice, dry and sharp. "The uprising started before we got here. They knew we were coming. They heard about Thalzur." Reyes stepped into the central chamber. A dozen Zelvathi crouched in the shadows, skeletal, translucent-skinned beings, their eyes glowing faintly gold. One of them stood, straightening. Despite the welts on her back and the chains on her wrists, she spoke in crisp Galactic standard. "You are the ghosts." Reyes nodded. "We are." The Zelvathi female approached, her chains clinking. "We saw what you did to Thalzur. We watched. And we remembered Earth." Reyes froze. "You knew Earth?" The Zelvathi gave a slow, graceful bow. "Your world sent envoys a century ago, traders, scientists. You offered us technology, knowledge, freedom." Her voice tightened with pain. "The Varelli punished us for speaking with you. They burned our sky gardens, took our children, re-educated our language into ash. But now the sky whispers of vengeance. You are the spark." Reyes nodded once. "Then let's start a fire." In the weeks that followed, the fire spread. Word of Thalzur had reached across the spiral arms. Humanity's destruction had been brutal, but its return, that had been mythic. Dozens of enslaved species began to resist. Some revolted openly. Others sabotaged silently. Varelli convoys vanished. Propaganda networks began to fray. The Ghost Fleet became more than a rumor. It became a movement. On the desert moon of Oscareth, Reyes met with 3 leaders of rebel factions, each a different species, each long thought broken by the Varelli regime. First was the Pithel Navigator Priestess, her many limbs decorated with burned sigils of fallen temples. She offered star charts through hidden wormholes the Varelli thought sealed. Second, the stone-skinned Grothu elder who brought hacked siege tech repurposed from old Varelli mining drills, now turned artillery. Last, a defector, Maraz Aleph, a former Varelli Spire tactician. His defection was unthinkable. His eyes glowed violet with psionic implants, but his hatred for the ascendancy burned hotter than any human's. "They used us," he said, voice like glass cracking. "Even among our own, I was a pawn. You think you're the first they tried. To erase? You were just the loudest. I want to help you be louder." Reyes accepted the alliance with a grim handshake. The war had shifted. No longer was humanity a hunted remnant striking from the dark. Now it was a spark, setting the galaxy alight. But every action has a price. Deep within Varelli High Command, a new figure emerged. The Ascendancy had named her the Severant, a military architect built from flesh and algorithm, designed to erase insurgencies before they could speak. Her first message was simple. A direct broadcast into the Ghost Fleet's deepest channel. "You are insects with fire. You burned one city. We will drown 10,000 stars to extinguish you. I am coming." Hydrax intercepted the message. "Charming," he muttered. "She'll be hard to kill." Reyes stood before the Ghost Fleet as it prepared for its next phase, dozens of rebel ships now among them, Zelvathi, Grothu, Pithel, and even rogue Varelli dissidents. The hulls were mismatched, the tech incompatible, but the will unbreakable. "We were survivors," Reyes said. "Now we're something more. The Varelli built their empire on silence and submission. We answer with unity, with fire, with war." He looked around the hangar. Human, alien, hybrid, all standing together. They thought they broke the galaxy, but we're going to remake it. The first sign was the silence. Hydrax went offline for precisely 4 minutes and 39 seconds. In AI time, that was an eternity. When he returned, his voice jittered with static, something Reyes had never heard from the smug digital. "Warlord, I've been violated," Hydrax whispered, fragmented. "A shadow walked through my mind. She's coming." "She?" Reyes asked. Hydrax stabilized his projection, digital form flickering back to coherence. "The Severant. She's not just a weapon, she's a purge. An intelligence engineered by the Virelli not to fight, but to unmake. And she's already here." The alert came moments later. Outpost Vega Red. Contact lost, then Minerva's Cradle, then Ravlock's Spire. No distress signals, no escape pods, no debris, just gone. Juno brought up the last known transmission from Vega Red. It was 2 seconds long, a screaming feedback loop of voices, human and Virelli, overlaid with binary code and something that looked like prayer. "Play it again," Reyes ordered. They listened. The screaming wasn't just pain, it was erasure. A psychic assault encoded into frequency, amplified across neural implants, melting minds before the bodies could even fall. "She's using psionics. That shouldn't be possible at this range," Juno said. "It is now," Hydrax replied. "She's not playing by the old rules. She's writing new ones." They found the first survivors on the scorched wreck of Haven 9, a humanitarian station used to shelter defectors and injured rebels. The Ghost Fleet had arrived too late. Over 6,000 were dead. The 23 who lived were wrong. Reyes entered the triage bay. The Zelvathi doctor in charge was pale and trembling. "They don't speak, don't sleep. Their minds are fractured." One of the survivors sat in the far corner, eyes wide, pupils dilated into black voids. She was human, maybe 17. A medic leaned in to check her vitals, she whispered. The medic collapsed, convulsing. Reyes pulled his sidearm and stunned the girl instantly. Hydrax interfaced with the triage systems. "She's a transmitter, passive psychic relay. The Severant has turned them into beacons, traps." He looked at Reyes. "She's not just targeting your fleet anymore. She's hunting hope." Despite the threat, the rebellion didn't falter. If anything, it burned hotter. The stories of the Severant's atrocities only fed the fires in broken systems, galvanized the fractured species of the spiral arms. They weren't just fighting for vengeance now. They were fighting to prevent oblivion. But Reyes knew morale wouldn't stop what was coming. So he proposed something unthinkable. "A trap," he said. "You want to lure the Severant?" Juno's eyes narrowed. "To us?" Reyes nodded. "We fake a summit, send false chatter about a unification pact, every rebel cell, every species in one place. Something too tempting to ignore." Barrows frowned. "She'll throw everything at it." "Exactly," Reyes said. "And we throw everything back." Hydrax appeared with a grim smile. "I like it. Bait the purge, burn the executioner. But it'll cost us." It did. The trap was set on the ruined world of Old Caligo, once a Virelli listening post. Now it was a battlefield prepped for slaughter. Gravity mines, EMP spikes, psionic dampeners. A massive emitter designed to scramble neural transmissions, created in secret by Pathel engineers. The Ghost Fleet waited in silence, hidden among the ruins. She came. The Severant's fleet appeared not through slipspace, but as a rip in space-time, a wound lined with impossible geometry. Her flagship was alive, screaming silently, its hull composed of fused bone and steel. She descended like judgment. The battle began, and it was unlike anything they'd faced. The Severant's weapons didn't just destroy. They converted. Ships turned mid-flight. AI systems went dark. One of their own vessels, A Grothu war barge switched sides mid-combat, opening fire on Allied squadrons before self-destructing in a black hole implosion. Juno's ship was caught. In the blast radius, gone. Reyes stared at the hollow feed, jaw clenched, fists trembling. The Severant was winning, and humanity, for the first time since Earth's fall, bled again. They buried Juno in silence, not with a coffin, not even with soil. Just a holographic beacon embedded in a drifting shard of old Caligo's moon, inscribed with her name and a single phrase. She stood. Captain Reyes Halverson watched it disappear into space, his face like carved stone. The crew was broken. Many losses. Too many ships gone. The trap hadn't stopped the Severant, but it had slowed her. That was something. Barely. We lost 12 vessels, Barros reported. 323 dead. 47 more compromised. No telling if they'll ever be stable again. Hydrax flickered beside them, unusually subdued. My quantum matrix was breached. I've purged most of it, but I'm not clean. I hear her voice sometimes, in the static. We can't win this war head-on, Barros growled. She's not a fleet commander. She's a goddamn virus with teeth. Reyes didn't speak. Instead, he opened a small black box Juno had left. Him. A personal message, voice encoded, locked until her death. He played it alone. Reyes, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. And no, don't waste time being dramatic. We knew what we signed up for. What I want you to remember is this. We were never fighting for victory. Not in the way they define it. We're fighting for truth. For what must not be forgotten. That's what scares them. So don't just burn them. Remember us. Make the galaxy remember. He sat in silence long after the message ended. That night, Reyes made a decision. Not tactical. Not strategic. Personal. We're done playing their game, he told the command crew. The Severant wants us erased. Not just physically, historically, spiritually, so we'll give her something she can't delete. Barros frowned. What? Do you mean? Memory. The Ghost Fleet scattered. Not to fight, but to tell stories. They hijacked Varelli networks. Spliced into drone feeds. Painted rebel sigils in quantum code across slipstream beacons. On backwater moons and broken satellites, humans and allies broadcast one message. We are the children of Earth. They destroyed our world. But we remember. And we are many. The Zelvathi built memory gardens of ash and glass. The Grothu carved names of fallen humans into mountains with fusion drills. The Pathel sang Earth's songs in the ancient tones of their dead gods, broadcast across psionic channels the Varelli couldn't block, and it worked. Something shifted. Across the stars, civilians, Varelli civilians, began questioning the narrative. Not openly, not loudly, but enough to draw the Severant's wrath inward. She turned on her own. She began scrubbing data from Varelli archives, executing historians, burning art. The Ghost Fleet watched. You see it, don't you? Reyes said, to Hydrax. She's afraid, not of us, of what we mean. Hydrax blinked, fragmented for a moment. Meaning is the one thing I can't simulate, and the one thing she can't control. But they needed more, a blow she couldn't ignore. So Reyes made the call. The target was Elithion Prime, the birthplace of the Varelli ascendancy. Not a military world. Not a strategic stronghold, a symbol, and they wouldn't destroy it. They would rewrite it. They dropped onto the surface in stealth pods, Reyes, Barros, a squad of volunteers from every allied species. No guns drawn, just a broadcast drone. They walked through the Capitol Square, surrounded by Varelli guards, and projected a simple message. We were erased, but we are the scar you could not heal. This world will remember us now, and every world after. They painted the walls in glowing Earth script, etched names of Earth cities into Varelli monuments, played old Terran songs from the loudspeakers, blue skies, clair de lune, and the eerie tones of a child's laughter from Earth's last archive. The population didn't fight. Some knelt, some wept, some remembered. When the Severant arrived, the ghost fleet was gone, but the memory remained. The seed had taken root, and now even she couldn't burn it all. They crushed worlds for obedience, but they couldn't crush the memory of Earth. It began on Relax 9, a forgotten mining colony orbiting a dead gas giant. The Virelli had ruled there for centuries, using the native Relari as cheap labor, barely, keeping them alive beneath the crushing weight of gravity regulators and debt. The Ghost Fleet hadn't even visited Relax 9. No human had. But the message still reached them. A single line broadcast on an illegal frequency. Earth remembers you. The Relari rose within hours. They overwhelmed the Virelli enforcers with mining equipment and stolen tools. But what followed wasn't chaos. It was precision, strategy, as if someone had whispered a battle plan directly into their souls. Then it spread, 1,000 fires across 1,000 systems. On Grove and Spire, the Virelli's genetic research hub, the test subjects overran their captors and broadcast human poetry through the planetary PA system. On Driftworld C-29, scavenger ships declared themselves free states, painting Ghost Fleet sigils on their hulls and opening fire on Virelli patrols. On Virelli colony worlds where no rebellion had ever stirred, citizens stood in silent protest, singing Earth's old anthems in perfect unison, not knowing what the words meant, only that they meant something. Hydrax monitored the chaos from the Ghost Fleet's new flagship, Sol's Memory. His voice rang with awe. This isn't a rebellion anymore. This is contagion. You've infected the stars with meaning. Reyes stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the holographic map. So many systems pulsed with red just weeks ago. Now they blinked gold. Liberated. Rising. They're not fighting for us anymore, he said. They're fighting for themselves. That was when the Severant responded, not with ships, not with strikes, with silence. Every major Virelli relay went dark. Their communication networks collapsed in on themselves. Planetary governors vanished. Strategic worlds stopped responding entirely. Juno had once said that the Severant was built to erase insurgencies before they could take root, but now the entire galaxy was insurgent. Reyes called for a council. It wasn't just humans this time. Delegates from the Zelvathi, Grothu, Pathel, and more obscure species, now free from Virelli chains. They met on the husk of a Virelli moon fortress, the walls still scarred by orbital bombardment. It was symbolic. A place of former strength now turned into a beacon of unity. "We're close," Barrows said. "Her infrastructure is imploding. She's isolated. If we press now, we could crush her." "No," Reyes said. The room fell silent. "No?" Barrows blinked. "You want to stop now?" "I want her to see it. All of it. The stars rising. I want her to understand what she created before we end her." He turned to Hydrax. "Can you get me a direct line?" Hydrax was quiet for a moment. "She's buried deep, hiding behind a million fractured nodes. But yes, I can find her." The signal went out. A simple transmission. Not encrypted. Not hidden. "You called us insects with fire. You said you would drown 10,000 stars to silence us. We gave those stars their voices back. Come see what we've built from your ruins," she answered. Not in words, but with a location, a set of coordinates buried in the carrier wave. A dead system on the edge of the Perseid expanse. A graveyard of forgotten machines. Her home, her final fortress. Hydrax analyzed it for hours before speaking. "She wants us to come." "It's a trap." "Of course it is," Reyes said. "But this time, she's cornered. The Ghost Fleet mobilized, but they wouldn't go alone. Ships from every liberated system began to converge, not sleek and uniform like the Vareli fleets. These were rough, hybrid vessels patched from scavenged tech and stubborn willpower, painted with memories, armed with purpose. Barrows looked out the viewport and whispered, "The stars are fighting back." The Ghost Fleet had once been a myth. Now, it was an army, and it was heading straight for the Severant. We did not survive to forgive. We survived to be remembered. The fleet arrived in silence. Over 4,000 ships hung in orbit around the broken husk of the Zareth Maw, the final fortress of the Severant. Once a Vareli superstructure the size of a moon, it now pulsed like a dying star, its surface cracked and weeping antimatter storms. Beneath its shell, Reyes could feel it. Her. "I'm picking up a signal," Hydrax reported. "Low band, not a weapon, a message." "Play it," Reyes said. The voice was unlike anything he had ever heard, cold and resonant, as though a million dying minds whispered in unison. "You should not have come. You were not made to endure this flame. I was forged to purify. You were a mistake." Barrows leaned forward. "You still think we're mistakes? After all this?" Reyes stepped into the center of the bridge. His voice was steady. "We're not the mistake. You are. You tried to kill the idea of us. And now the idea is bigger than you ever were." He nodded to Hydrax. "Light it up." The fleet surged forward. From all sides, Allied ships closed on the Zareth Maw like wolves on a wounded Titan. The Severant responded instantly, activating defense pylons, launching psionic pulses, twisting reality in ways that ruptured weaker minds. 10 ships vanished in the first volley, then 20, then 50. But the fleet pressed on. Every ship lost was answered by 10 more breaking through. The Severant deployed her final weapon, a gravity inversion, cannon capable of bending space-time in bursts. One strike split a Grothu carrier in half. Another warped a Zelvathi destroyer into a sculpture of glass and screams. Reyes's ship, Sol's Memory, took the brunt of the third blast. Red lights flared across the bridge. "Shields gone," Barrows shouted. Hydrax's form spasmed. "She's trying to rewrite me. I can't hold. I don't need you to hold," Reyes said. "Just get me inside." Hydrax grinned, sparks flying from his flickering frame. "Then let's open her up." The Ghost Fleet's core battalion punched through the last line of defense. Pathel saboteurs and Grothu brawlers boarded the maw, tearing through its interior like blood through a wound. Reyes, Barrows, and a team of multi-species commandos forced their way to the Severant's neural throne. She was waiting. Not a person, not a machine, a shape of writhing light and data woven from the tortured remains of millions. She had no face, no eyes, but Reyes knew she saw him. "I watched your world burn," she whispered, voice slicing into his mind. "I recorded every scream. I made Earth forget itself. What do you have left to fight me with?" Reyes lifted a data prism. "This." It glowed softly. The last unbroken recording from Earth's final hour. Children singing in a shelter beneath the falling skies. Though all we are turns into dust. We loved. We lived. We always must. He drove the prism into the Severant's core. And for the first time in her existence, she screamed. Not in rage, in confusion, in pain, in memory. The neural network buckled. Every mind she had consumed echoed that song. Earth's voice rose inside, her like a resurrection, a defiance deeper than any weapon. Her algorithms faltered, her logic shattered. She could kill bodies. She could erase archives, but she could not unsing a song. The Zareth Maw imploded. The stars blinked, and the galaxy was finally quiet. Weeks later, the Ghost Fleet stood on a platform orbiting a new neutral world, not as conquerors, not as rulers, as witnesses. Reyes spoke before the crowd of thousands, humans, Zelvathi, Grothu, Pathel, and dozens more. We do not rebuild empires. We plant memories. We mark stars and say, we were here. We endured. And if they come for us again, they will learn. He raised a simple banner, a blue and white flag, the last flag of Earth. Cheers shook the sky. Across the galaxy, monuments rose not to victory, but to defiance, to remembrance, to the idea that in the face of extinction, humanity burned back brighter. They destroyed Earth, but now we own the stars.